Matheus Teixeira, eu sou Head de Inovação e Produto aqui na Lube. Today we're going to have a conversation in another language, so buckle up. It's going to be rough. Welcome, Stacy. How are you,
Thank
my
you.
man?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing well.
Thank you very much for your time, your patience, your availability.
Sure.
We do have a lot of interesting questions to pave our conversations today. And first of all, I would like to ask you, who came first, the egg or the chicken? And who came first, the Stacy that is an entrepreneur, or the interest in the area of client support and all of that stuff?
Of what? The second part, what'd you say? Of what?
Client support, yes.
Yeah. So entrepreneur came first. My background years and years ago, a long time ago. I was in technology for large companies, chip companies and computer companies and hardware. And I moved from that into finance, and I was actually a broker and financial management person for individuals, families, trusts, companies, things like that. And one of my clients at the time, who I helped with his startup stock options and all that, setting that up for him, had come to approach me and said, "Hey, I've got an idea for a new company. Would you like to help me do that?"
Uh-huh.
And it was a long time ago. It was 25 years ago, actually. And I said, at the time, I had to think about it because it's like new territory for me. And I would be in finance and raising capital and things like that. And I went ahead and said, yeah, sure. And then in the very first 3 months, I raised the first $500,000. I said, what's so hard about this? That was 1999.
Yeah.
And we all know in 2000 in the
Yes.
US markets. But by that time, I caught the bug. Driving our own way, paving our own way, taking ideas from concept to paper to actually implementing it, and seeing people at the time, we won't get into the details of what that was a hardware software deal, but seeing people at the time who have been in the industry for a long time in the market that we were in, which was media and entertainment and wireless technologies, say they hadn't seen anything like this ever, and this is great, wonderful, and let's do these things. And then 2000 happened, and
Right.
everything, I'll call it the market correction in the US. And so there's a big pullback on capital. But by that time, I got the bug. And so I'd rolled that into another company, started another one, started multiple companies over the last couple of decades, exited one, buttoned one up, both bad and good stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I caught the bug. And then with this organization where I'm at now, Emory.ai, which used to be called Intercom Financial Services, I was leaving one of those startups, and the CEO here had reached out and said, "Hey, you want to come help me get into this market with community institutions, fintech, banks, credit unions?" That's my previous startup that we did mobile apps as a service. And I said, "Sure." And so it's the first time in a long time that it's still entrepreneurial. We're a small company, but it's the first time in a long time I didn't start it from scratch. So it's been a journey. It's been interesting. It's been fun. Starting with a company who's profitable is always fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
You have resources, and it gives someone like me, and by someone like me, I mean someone who's very entrepreneurial and has sometimes some crazy concepts or ideas, and helps me hone them down in an environment where it's not, hey, we have to raise capital, or hey, what are we doing for these things so that we can keep going. It's more of how do we grow? And growth oriented and focusing on growth it's been fun so far. It's been fun.
Looking from this perspective, I understand that the crash of 2000s, the crash of 2008, many bubbles, many technologies that came and went. But the question is, do you have an idea like which technology was the most impactful throughout your career?
Oh, well, if you start back way back when, um, then the technology has been most impactful in the industry or on my career.
On your career? First the
Oh,
person, then the industry.
yeah. So the the technology has been most impactful to me, um, is definitely mobile technologies in general. Just mobile, from the data being served up with narrow band, now wide band across the board for every device, the device's capability to do things on the endpoints and the edge servers, the people
Edge
that push it out to
servers.
the edge, all those things from a wireless perspective, making things mobile. That's been the biggest impact because no matter what I've done, it's always followed me.
Mm-hmm.
So that first company that we did was a mobile media company. We were doing 802.11 technologies before it was 802.11b, before they called it Wi-Fi,
Mm-hmm.
and moving media using that technology. At the time, I didn't know what to call it before, but we're doing peer-to-peer transfers as well. And
Mm-hmm.
and
What year was
today,
that?
1999.
99. Oh.
Yeah, we're doing stuff to then that they did about 8 years later in the general market.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's always followed me in terms of how do we move data from place to place? How do we make it secure? How can we lock it up at the endpoint? How do we unlock that? How do we make that compliant and credentialed? How do we do these things in a safe way? And enabling commerce without it being, and protecting the digital rights or the value of what's being transferred, right? Whether it's then it was media, now today it's dollars and cents, it's money. So that's always followed me.
Mm-hmm.
It's mobile technology in general and the advances in mobile technologies. We went from I started with that company into a company that was leveraging phone networks and telephony to tie into web services online for notifications, things like that, to
Mm-hmm.
interact with web services via touch tone.
Yeah. It was the boom
And
of the SMS and the
yeah.
everything.
This
Yeah.
was like a phone call bidding on eBay auctions using touch tone
Mm.
before the iPhone, right?
Yeah.
So it was always about trying to bridge the data, the content, and that was on web and digital to mobile in some way. And then the iPhone came, and boom, it woke up, right? Everything there, just like, oh, it just woke up everything we can do. So we did push notifications to the phones, we did all those things. Mobile has always followed me, or at least I've always followed mobile because that's what people are focused on. Then I don't know, a few years ago they said mobile first, mobile only, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not necessarily come true. But that was a focus for the tech companies for a while. But yeah, anything enabling more mobile interactions, secure mobile interactions. That's been the biggest thing because everything I've focused on, everything I've done, that's part of the essence of what we have to do. Today it's fintech, it's mobile, it's got to be secure, credentialed, and all those things. And so, yeah, that's if you want to pick a technology, it's the advancements of what you can do in a mobile setting.
Yes, I have. In 1999, I was in my internship,
Mm-hmm.
and I watched the rise of this mobile technology. But here in Brazil, the environment was obviously very different.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I believe was the most persistent throughout the years is that transactions are still the source or the richest source of intelligence for the market, even today.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I've been building at Luby currently, I try to look at transactions, be it mobile, Swift, or crypto, or everything. The amount of intelligence that we have today because of mobile networks and all the protocols around it, it's unprecedented. We have layers and layers and layers of information that we can aggregate to build on top of that. How did you watch that?
Oh, it's crazy. So back in the day, back when you're in an internship and we were doing we were consuming what we just called it metadata.
Uh-huh.
It's so we were doing things where you could listen to media, buy media, have it in exchange in a transaction, and that transaction indicates what that user or consumer, the transaction, you can no survey, no questionnaire, no ad clicking tells you what is really important to that person more than when they do a transaction.
Yes.
And everything around that transaction, the metadata around that transaction, how it relates to the other transactions they've done, and that metadata layer back then, that was what we were focused on. It's what can we do with this metadata? We actually had a large car manufacturer ask us if we could sync up this system with things at home so they could capture that metadata and understand how they can deliver more relevant advertising or content to users at home. It's basically if you want to think about this in today's terms, it's I want to do Instagram for media, not just these swipes, right? It's like I can target you that well that it matters to you based on the metadata of your transactions, right?
Yes.
And today
Totally.
it's at the nth degree where you're one click, one tap on Instagram from buying something, right?
Yes.
That's where it's found its fine point today, but it's grown from then. Oh, let's look at transactions, all the metadata around it, to now it's I have so many data points on you because of what you do mobilely and the transactions that you make, right?
And on top of that, I think that the mentality today, or the mindset around things being mobile, came to a point in which we cannot imagine the existence of a product that doesn't have at least one layer of communication that is mobile. Be it IoT networks, be it whatever you
It does. Whether it's
mobile.
internal, external, consumer, and enterprise, it doesn't matter. The first thing you say, I've got an enterprise solution for inside your business, manufacturing business, banking, financial business, insurance. It doesn't matter. Okay, how do I get notifications of that to my phone?
Yeah.
How do I know what's happening? How do I interact with that? Can I take action remotely? Those things are the number one things that people want, because it's how can I do this without having to come in to on site, right? It's still the leader on the first thing they ask with the solution.
Yeah.
It's the very first.
One of the things that I've been watching also is not that we diversified the types of transactions, but we gave different contexts to the transactions that we create. We have, for example, protocols in IoT that transact between machines. We have protocols between AI agents, and we will go there.
Yeah, that's fine.
But they transact, for example, today I was studying a complete operational system that has the capability of functioning totally by agents. You don't need Excel, Microsoft, or you don't need none of that, just agents.
Right.
But what do you have to have there? Currency. Everything that you do, you must have a transaction there.
Yeah.
You pay by the requisition for that agent to perform such and such action. The transaction on itself is a validator of everything that came before that. The customer value, the task that it is executing, and all of that go back to a pool of intelligence that aggregates from cryptocurrencies to IoT transactions to market transactions to e-commerce to everything. Who's the customer of all this data?
Right.
You know, like what types of services and products do you foresee in our future for the next 3 years, for example?
In terms of the fintech future,
Yeah.
Customer support, customer service, next 3 years. So today, everyone's I mean, look, the reality is what happened 2 years ago has accelerated everything. The expectations that a consumer or even a banker, I mean, and one of the things you'd asked about, is it conservative? Is it progressive? It's a pretty conservative niche, right? Bankers,
Yes.
Even the credit unions who are progressive, because they tend to look at technology differently. they're still conservative. They're dealing with other people's money, as we always say, other people's money. But in terms of in the next 3 years, what ChatGPT did 2 years ago or 18 months, I can't, it feels like a decade ago. So many things have happened. That is what changed the expectations for bankers. It changed the expectations of credit union, people running credit unions, and the end consumers. And so, because the consumers have it in their hands now. The consumers have it. I can just ask a question, have a conversation with something, and it knows what I want. It goes and finds it for me. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. People are using it instead of Google, right? And so they have this expectation of, I want access to the information now. I want it to be accurate, and I want to be able to understand it because it can explain it to me. And so in the short term, the next few years, I think as funny as it is, chatbots have been around a long, long, long time. But now when you look at the market, and I look at in the US, let's just talk about US, because Brazil and overseas and the international markets, they outpace what people want to do in a mobile fashion. They outpace what people want to do technically compared to the US. The US is a follower in a lot of aspects when it comes to that stuff. So some of these things may happen there first. But in the US, the chatbot world, where people can access information, people can engage with their information, people can understand their transaction information better, that's going to accelerate quickly. Right now in the US, I did an outreach program in just a couple of states, near me. Like I'm in Texas and Oklahoma, and did some analysis. And of those, the banks and credit unions in those in that area, only 8% of them had chatbots already
8%?
on their website. Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
8%. So, and
Wow.
and why they don't have it, depending on who you're talking to, community institutions, and comes to the human aspect. And this is where, like in the next few years, I think this is going to change. They say, we want to have a human touch. We don't want bots to do these things. And so what we're doing now is talking to them and saying, look, the human touch is important. The human interaction is important for things that only a human can do. You are burning time dealing with things that an agentic AI bot can do for that user. You're taking more time to give the user their information, taking more time to do the task for the user, your client, than the bot would, and it's not the highest value of your time. So if people want to know when the hours are, people want to know when, what the rates are for loans, people want to know, things that I can literally crawl your website and tell them what that is, right? Versus calling you. They should call you when they say, hey, it's time for us to really look at our retirement plan. Now that, or hey, we're going to plan to have a kid. We need to start looking at college funding. All those types of things where you want to talk to them and new products and services. You want to talk to someone. But even some of those can be served by agentic AI. I can help you fill that out. I can help you fill out those forms. I can take your input. I can get you to sign this paper. All these things you can do with agentic AI. But that line right now is going to be more of data-driven things for agentic AI. And then it's going to move more towards servicing. And the human's going to service some of these servicing things. They want their hands on it. They want to have this conversation with you about your retirement, about all these things. But where it's less necessary for a human, those relationships can be more and more agentic AI, and that line's going to move further and further away. And so the agentic AI does more and more, and the humans are dealing with high value conversations. I think culturally in the US right now, the younger generation, and by say younger, I mean, they're in their 20s, teens and 20s. They, on one end, don't want to talk to anyone. Everything's a chat.
Yeah.
Some of them in some places don't want driver's licenses because they can get with their friends online. They get their friends on their mobile devices. They don't need that. At the same time, there's a dichotomy in what they're doing, because there's that side for things like that. But then when it comes to things like important decisions,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a whole pushback on home ownership now, there's a whole pushback so having mortgages and debt.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to large life decisions, they have continually shown that they really want a human, and community institutions, and the larger institutions they trust less and less. So the combination of this younger generation being highly technically savvy and willing to chat to get the answers, and this generation, the younger generation, trusting less and less the larger institutions,
Mm-hmm.
it tells me that the smaller community institutions need to be technically savvy. They need to adopt these things that have agentic AI to answer the questions. Let them engage. Let them engage to the point where they really want to talk to a person,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And let the market will decide when they talk to a person. That's that blend, right? And
Um,
so
I think you
that
touched a point.
that's what is changing.
I see exactly your perspective from what I think was kind of it's not a pushback, but I think here in Brazil, at least, people still look to ChatGPT and all of their consorts as a chatbot.
Mhm.
People still think that they're there just to answer questions,
Mhm.
and that in some way is still hampering the full blowout of the technology.
Right.
And what I see that you have captured is this golden nugget of interaction with agentic AI, in which you can, that's one of the beautiful definitions of service as a software.
Service, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I've only talked about so far in my industry dealing with the consumers and the generation that's changing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna flip that around. The other
Mhm.
thing that's gonna happen in the next few years is internally, self-facing inside the financial institutions. Agentic AIs will take on a lot of roles.
Mhm.
It's like technologies that we're doing now that servicing your own employees, the larger institutions, servicing your own employees with everything from technical support, human
HR,
resources support,
yes,
knowledge base on, hey, how do I process this loan?
compliance,
And
payroll,
procedure,
yeah, all of that.
all of that, KPIs and reporting for the C-level, all of those things. And it's got to be agentic AI, because it's not just straight one layer of AI.
No.
It is multiple agents that are doing these different things, because these are complicated things.
Mhm.
And so that is all going to be deployed either independently as a chat and voice enabled chat channel for employees internally, and or for any industry. Frankly, fintech and financial is what I'm looking at now, because they have a unique issue that other businesses don't have as much, and that is they struggle to get to their own data. Banks and credit unions struggle to get their own data. If I go to any bank and credit union, what's your biggest problem? I just need to get to my information. I need reporting. I need this, and I need to do it so bad that I have a person down the hall that say, "Hey, can you do this for me?" And they spend a week doing it for me.
Yep.
Versus I could just ask a system to do it for me, and it just shows up, right? It's kind of the difference. I've always used this analogy before Apple TV. So I used to have a system, entertainment system, television, stereo, all these different things, all these different remote controls. And I had this universal remote, big digital universal remote. And my wife would never use it. She goes, I ain't gonna use this. This is too complicated. We get Apple TV, and you talk to the remote, and she can say, I want season 5, episode 4, whatever she wants, and it's there. It's the same thing with this technology. You can't get to your data. There's ways to get to it. Just like there's ways for consumers to do their own financial planning and financial management by getting your PFM, personal financial management system, on your bank, get into a spreadsheet, and then put in all these other things and figure out what's tracked and what's not, and categorize. My wife's not gonna do that either.
Yeah.
The banker, the president of the bank's not going to go in and dig into all these detailed reporting ERP systems and figure all that either. He's going to hire someone to do that, just so he can have his easy button saying, hey, can you do this for me? The future internally and with finance for end users and whomever is you're going to chat or talk to something and say, hey, this is what I usually want for my KPI reports for my board of directors. I usually show this, 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 and this. can you look at this data and tell me what that looks like for the last quarter? And then what they're going to do is do two side by sides. They're going to do that, and they're going to have their person still do it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to learn
That's still
that
happening.
this agentic AI is going to be more thorough. It'll be the same numbers will be just as accurate. They'll both be accurate, but it'll be more thorough and more thought provoking.
Yes.
In terms of what you can do with the data,
And
right? Because we limit ourselves as humans to say, what does my boss need? My boss needs this report. Boom, to a week, there's your report. It doesn't say, you don't have the capacity to necessarily say, what does my boss say he needs? And what do I really believe he might want more, right? That doesn't necessarily happen. Whereas with agentic AI, you can say, hey, this is what I need. Can you suggest some other things that we may want to look at, right?
Exactly.
Those are just simple examples, but facing inward is the other thing that's happening in the next few years. That's what we're going to focus on for some of our go-to-market things for the company, for my day job, is, hey, we need to focus on how to make it easier for the banker for either getting their data or accelerating what their business does. Loan processing, things like everybody's talking about loan processing. Yeah, here's a thing for loan processing, but internally, we really want a holistic view of the entire business from a bank or credit union's perspective. And a holistic view requires you taking all the data and all the inputs. And that's going to be something that over the next 10 years, it's going to be, how do we get more input to get a more holistic view? The data that's on core processing, the data that they have in their back office that's already in some system for the larger guys. The smaller guys are the ones, if you focus on the smallest guys, that's where they like, I don't know how to get this data, right? That data is available, but in the future is like, what other data can we add to this system to understand what we're trying to understand, not just what I have done, but what I want to do.
I think that you summarized, I see as a clear vision of the pains of legacy systems holding large silos of information.
Yep.
And a more technologically oriented, more efficiency oriented, more remote oriented generation that is going to bring to the table like this mentality of saying, dude, I need just this information. I don't need to go to the bank to print the spreadsheet, to come back home with a lot of pages to look into them. In 3 days, I will have some projections of that. Like the agentic is going to be the declutter of this approach in any job. Like in Brazil, we have the same problems in banking: reconciliation, credit scoring, onboarding, like crossing the data from contracts, all of that stuff. It's not going to be enough for you to have a team to solve that. You're gonna be worried about the work quality of those people with and without the agent. That's going to be a marker of the struggling points.
It comes back to what we talked about earlier, talking about transactions. I know everything about you based on your transactions. And then we used to talk about metadata. And we talked about Instagram, how Instagram knows what you want to see. It knows what you want to see. Turn that inward to the business. When they do business reporting, hey, here's our quarterly report for the company for internal. It's how much of that report matters to me from my group and what I do about this much. And guess what? It's not all in one place. It's in different parts of these. It says our turnover rate was this, our acceleration was this, our lead generation was that. It's all these different things. Agentic AI is going to be able, and not to mention that, also, it's this big. We've been trained to take things in bite-sized data.
Totally. Yeah.
Now it's what leads me to believe it won't be the same for our business and our data, where agentic AI can say, you know what, here's all the data. Here's the report you'd usually get. No, we're not doing that anymore. Right? We're gonna deliver this report specific for this person because it's what they care about and what they need to take action on. And we're gonna do it bite size. Here's your daily, here's your weekly, Here's your monthly and quarterly. It's something that it's just like your Instagram. You're swiping through your data and you know it just as well, right? And it's a thing that's what's going to happen, so that everyone can be more efficient, because you can't have humans split up this huge business report targeting each one of these people so they get their own personalized thing, unless they have a group working on it. And that's so inefficient, right? Because it's data. I just need the data for us. Right? And so the ability to enable that capability so that you can get what's important. Everyone has exactly the data they need to take action on what they need to do, and it all works cohesively together. That's where it's going to be. It's kind of comes full circle with what they've led us to.
Yeah.
Technically, to take everything bite size and consume things that way. That's how we're going to consume our own data to understand how our businesses are doing.
One thing you reminded me was that when I was starting to work with AI, I looked into the data as if I had to ask a book, what questions are you capable of answering me? That was my approach when I was first looking into RAG systems and big data back in, I don't know when, but now I think we have, what decisions are you capable to make based on the questions I can answer based on your data? That's
it's almost like, what do you need to know from me to do my job?
Perfect.
What do I need to give you to do my job? And then it's just, well, what's your job? Oh, let me describe that to you.
Yeah.
And then you can describe it back to me. And then it's at the littlest point of, I just need, I'm a person, I just check balances all day, right? Just silly. But now you go from that to, oh, I need to know everything about this business. I'm the CEO. I need to know everything. I need to make decisions, not only about the let's stick with banking. The bank, its finances, loans, deposits, and make decisions how we're do this. Personnel, not to mention everyone's interacting with it. So what personnel decisions do I need to make? And it's not about head count. It's about, are they in the right place? Should they be in a different area because they really excel, but they don't recognize that about themselves, right? So all those things will happen. That's the AI side of it. That's why I think 3 years, 10 years in the future, that's just gonna, it's gonna be dramatic, and it's not gonna be as scary as people think it's gonna be, and it's not gonna be the silver bullet everyone thinks it's gonna be, but it's gonna be a tool that accelerates everything and makes a lot of people's jobs a lot easier. And the ability, the worst thing, I don't care what company you're in, I don't know, bank, tech company, the worst thing are the meetings we have to have. Okay, report on what we've done. Let's pull together reports and have a meeting about what's happened the last quarter. What's your goals for the next quarter? Those meetings are like, it's just a lot. It's another level of effort just to pull together the data to report on what you've already done, instead of having your effort being on repeating what you did or making it better, right? It's all of this backtracking. Let's report on that stuff. So it'll make that a lot easier. I think the other side, I might be jumping ahead, but the other side I see in the next few years, and the things I think are impact right now. So from the beginning of my career, it's been mobile and all the technologies that come with that, like you're saying. And now AI and breaking through these silos, like you mentioned, silos, that's important. The things that are happening right now that I think are going to get better and expand are going to be around biometrics. And I think security. So a few years ago, I did a podcast for a credit union podcast, I believe, and they'd asked what I thought about what's going to be a thing, and I still think it, and that is what I used to call the cloud of a cloud of authentication. And what I mean by that, there are companies like that do biometrics, or companies like Clear, in the airport and all that, and they're getting into fintech and things like that. And I've worked with them. They're all about biometrics and all about, using your biometrics to enable you to do different things, right? You go to a stadium, they scan your face. Okay, I know who you are. Yes, you can buy beer, right? And if you attach your credit card, debit card to it, you can buy it just scanning your face. You don't have to present anything. It's the concept we're moving toward, like they call naked payments, right? So I should be able to go anywhere and pay with anything. The reality is, biometrics is one thing, but people are concerned about these deep fake things too, because people now have physical things like masks and things that look so real that you might be able to fool biometrics on this on the selfie stuff, even liveness detection, because the mask is so tight on your face. So I've always believed that biometrics is a part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That the visual biometrics is part of it. I believe voice biometrics is another part of it. So disguise my voice as well. Well, now you can have AI replicate your voice, and you can record it next to the face or whatever. All those things. There's two things. There's two things. The third thing is something you have to have, right? So in a world where we wear these watches, have these devices, we have these phones, even if those go away and we do they have the chip in your brain, or you have the goggles,
Irises,
or whatever it is, there's going to be hardware that's related to you. And that hardware's got a history. It's got geo history. It's got interactive history. So it knows it's you interacting with that device, plus the biometrics, plus the facial, plus the voice biometrics. All these things triangulate on you. So within a certain level of certainty, if you have access to that data, again, it comes out of data, that you can confirm it is you and the system knows it's you, so that you can do things like, and silly, I'm gonna give you a silly example. I should be able to unlock my car, get in my car, start my car without any keys. I mean, I know somebody has a Tesla has the key card. People can start with your phone, but the phone's with me. I'm me, biometrics wise. I should be able to do that, start my car, and based on where I'm sitting, I should be able to tell the entertainment system or it should know who I am, and then I can tell it to do things. Hey, can you play this? Or hey, can you change, play this music or find this data information? Give me the report on my bank, whatever. And then someone in the back seat says, hey, can you transfer funds? And the system should know, I'm sorry, you're not Stacy, right? You can't do that, because it recognizes biometrics. It's all instant, right? So this cloud of authentication follows you around, so that I think we're at the first time now where we have in history where we have security and convenience actually crossing paths. Usually security means, I got to have a dongle, or I got to have 8 passwords, or I got to have multi-factor authentication, and it's not very convenient. Now with biometrics, you can enable this cloud of authentication around you, credentialed to do different things, and it's convenient. So in a world where you still have paper money, because I still think people have debate about this, about physical money, but you should be able to.
That's a whole other podcast, man.
That's a whole other podcast. So in today's world, if cloud of authentication, fast forward, I don't think this is too far from now.
No.
I will walk up to an ATM. It's got a camera. Boom. It recognizes me, knows who I am, and I have to tell it what I want. And it'll ask me for a PIN number for me to verbalize, right? Maybe. So I say, yeah, I need to withdraw $200. Okay, what's your PIN? And that PIN is something that is for transfers. But if it asks me my PIN and I give it a different PIN that's also assigned to me, it could be a PIN that says, yeah, I'll give you the money, but I also know you're saying you're in distress.
Yeah.
Because in that world, the security implications in that world for the opportunists out there to have me come to the ATM and pull money out without a card, it's that much easier. But for me to be able to communicate to the system that, hey, and here's my PIN number, great, here's your money, but it knows based on that PIN number I'm in distress. You're turning every machine like that. Let's say it's an ATM today. And again, there's a whole other podcast about paper money. But let's say it's an ATM today. Every ATM is a beacon.
Okay.
Can be a distress beacon for almost anyone, right? So everything turns into it's a networked thing. It's a network effect of authentication, security, and convenience. So
yeah, it ultimately brings the decision-making, how can I say, the decision-making collective into the transactions.
Yeah.
If you look back at the transactions as validators, they bring back the decisions way back as a history of your transactions. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And just to cap it up here and invite you again for a next episode.
Yeah. Because we barely scratched the surface, I think.
Yeah, I would like to ask, like, what is the job to be done? What essential part of solving a problem that you decided to apply your efforts, your intellect, your time with your product? What is the job to be done of the product that you are bringing to the market today?
Oh, the product we're bringing to market now.
Yeah.
So there's three pieces, right?
Mhm.
And there's a fourth piece I can talk about, maybe, but it's not related to my product. So data,
Yeah.
security, convenience. So right now in our industry, the hardest thing for people to get in touch with or really grab hold of is their data.
Mhm.
That I mentioned earlier, for multiple reasons, a multitude of reasons, depending who your core processor is, where that data is kept. Now there's a movement in the industry to start moving more and more things to the cloud. I know that seemed like 10 years ago, but for banking, it's now, right? More and more to the cloud.
Yeah.
And what some of them have proposed is, hey, we want to take our data to the cloud. We want to normalize that data and give third-party access so they can have more real-time access to the data, because processing systems can, when you're trying to get real-time stuff, can be a little slow. And that's an indicator of where I think it's going, because they're doing that for multiple reasons. They're doing it because they want to be compliant with new rules that are coming down the system where people own their data, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be able to delete their data, give them their data, and to do that, the way the core systems are set up today, I don't think it's really set up to do that. It's set up to serve the bank, not the individual. So I think normalizing that data, everyone's making a big push to move the data to the cloud or their applications to the cloud, or a combination of both. That's going to be a multiple year process.
Mm-hmm.
For our products, for us to really be effective, especially agentic AI, and for the end consumer or for the business, the big problems we're going to solve are how to normalize data for community institutions in a way that we can leverage it to make everything responsive, very responsive. Agentic AI, generating tools to consume and that data and be able to deliver what the institutions expect from that data.
Mm-hmm.
So data, convenience, right? The AI piece, and security, which is internally leveraging everything we can from, MFA, multi-factor authentication is one thing, but biometrics and things like that to make sure that agentic AI, I can have a huge system. The agentic AI understands all the data back here for different purposes, but based on who you are, you have access to these systems. There's nothing new about roles, right? You have role-based access.
Yeah.
But we're talking agentic AI and biometrics and what agentic AI can do for you. That system can tell you anything you want, but it will know, I can't tell you that. I know what it is, but I can't tell you that because you're not authorized, right? It's a different level of stuff. So our big challenge, our challenge right now is normalizing data, because we have banks and credit unions across different core processors. Their backends are different. Their HR systems are different. Their KPI systems are different. Some have a system, some have nothing. So standardizing what that looks like for a community institution, so it's the 80th percentile of what is useful, and then the big task then is really digging in with the institutions themselves to know what the other 20% really needs to look like, right? Because I'm telling you, they've never had access to it in this way. So it's like going to your mom and saying, hey, here's ChatGPT, go.
Would never work.
She doesn't know, right? She doesn't know.
No.
Instead, you say, hey, here's ChatGPT, and for you, I developed these 7 applications that will deliver things to you automatically. Oh, that's so great, right? But she doesn't know what those applications need to be yet.
Yeah. Man, thank you very much for this conversation. I think we're gonna talk much more
Yeah, I
because
enjoyed
it's
it.
been fun and very provocative, very thought-inducing. And for today, I think we have brought a lot of insights for everyone. Thank you very much, Stacy. Thank you
Well,
very
thank
much.
you. Thanks
Obrigado,
for having me.
pessoal. Espero que vocês gostem, que a gente tenha conversado e com certeza a gente vai conversar mais com o Stacy daqui a pouco. Obrigado, gente.